Everybody, 8/12. Happy hangover. Happy post St. Patrick's Day. Whatever is going on in your life, welcome to the greatest show. Not an okay show, the greatest morning show ever created. And you're a part of it. Thank you so much. Look at that. Look at Hugh Jackman all fired up this morning. 8:15. We're talking pre-market. We're ready to roll. It is Fed meeting day. Does anyone care less than me? The answer is no. But the Fed meeting, even though the FOMC, even though the Fed funds rate does not matter, unless you're talking about relationship to SOFR, it doesn't matter, but the markets will trade on it, which means we have an opportunity to trade today. And I'm going to walk you through how to trade that at 2:30 when the Fed meets and when Jerome Powell lets words out of his mouth. All right, couple of moving parts. Rundown this morning. Oil is softening. WTI is pulled back between a range of 91 and 95. Libya is shutting down. Little explosion going on over there. Look, this is still a mess. And a lot of people are focusing on trading the E&P names, upstream, energy, production, and exploration names. I continue to remind you there's always money in the midstream. You should be investing in names like Energy Transfer and EPD and even some of the closed-end funds like EMO. Don't speculate on oil prices. You can trade oil, and the way that you do that is, of course, with volume-weighted average price. We are in a trade right now with Devon Energy, currently sitting at 47, in at 45. Stop at 40, looking for an exit at 55. The war is obviously escalating. Israel targeting, I don't know how to pronounce that word. Iran hit Tel Aviv with cluster warheads. Ceasefire has been rejected. The FOMC meeting is today. Rates expected unchanged. No cut. No expectation for a cut until December. The dot plot and Powell will press at 2:30. We will look for some clues on what they think about when it comes to recessionary pressures, what's going on with jobs, and obviously what's going on with inflation. NVIDIA, third day of their meeting. I'm not paying any attention to this, but once again, because of zero date and because we're moving toward the end of the week, NVIDIA is a name to trade. Very sideways range bound stock since November. There's opportunity here if you're following and trading with volume weighted average price. Oh, look, Devin said 47.42. I feel better about my call. All right. Futures firmer. Yes, this morning. NASDAQ up this morning. And you're going to see a little bit of a increase and improvement in our momentum reading, largely because the number of stocks that are down on the week have dropped. So it's not really a selling pressure issue. It's just that people are kind of calming down ahead of the Fed decision that will come relatively soon. Fed decision, 2:00. No cut expected. Really, it's all about forward guidance when it comes to Jerome Powell speaking at 2:30. PPI numbers will come out this morning in about 15 minutes. I will not be paying attention to that. CNBC will be calling them wholesale prices, even though they have not been wholesale prices since 1978. You would think a journalist would catch up on that, but what can you do? The Bank of Canada will make a decision on interest rates. That does matter because Canada does look very attractive right now with the US dollar, the way it's acting, the fact that we want to focus on economically free nations that also have deep resources behind them. I am long Canada. Hey, good job, Canadians. Micron earnings are after the bell. Very important earnings. S&P 500 futures up this morning. NASDAQ up this morning, flat on the dollar. Crude kind of softening, but that's okay because, again, there's always money in the midstream. Look at those pipeline names. There's still ample opportunity in Energy Transfer, EPD, which is Enterprise Product Partners. Hey, look at us. Gold prices around 5,000. As I've said, countries are selling gold in order to buy oil. That's where the pressure is coming from. 91 to 95, Brent range between 100 and 103. Questions about what's going on with Iraq and the Kurdish areas of exportation. Libya shutting down. These are all headline risks. But once again, as you look at this, as you assess what is happening in the global energy markets, I continue to remind you, you want to park yourself in the middle of the midstream. These are not trades. These are not, hey, I'm trying to buy for $1 and sell for 2. You're trying to capture cash flow. We've talked about choke points. And the reality is that if you buy into these names, names like Energy Transfer, names like EPD, you're going to be given very solid yield somewhere in the 6 to 8% range, but you're looking for total return. You're looking for something that is higher than the debasement of the dollar. And we've seen with some of the names that we've recommended in the past, 20%, 20% total return. And if you compound that with time, it looks great. Remember, Energy Transfer, Kelsey Warren, the chairman of the company, had one of the largest insider buying streams of all time in the last couple of years. He was still buying the stock around that $15, $16 range. He started buying it at 8. But once again, if the insiders are buying their stocks, that's very, very positive. And I like EMO, I like EPD, I like Energy Transfer. And I'm going to remind you, in this environment that we operate in, it's very, very plausible that some of these names will pull back, and they might pull back because of ongoing liquidity issues. But I'm in it for the yield right now. And when the cash flow improves and when the monetary policy becomes accommodative, and it's probably going to have to in about 18 months, and an Energy Transfer becomes a $25, $26 stock. EPD moves into the mid 40s. EMO continues to rise. You have to be making that decision, that line in the sand. I am an investor in these companies. There is always money in the midstream. Remember that. All right. KHATIB targeted. I can't pronounce that. I don't want to even try to, because if I do, I'm going to get it wrong, and then people are going to send me emails, and then let's move on. Let's move on. FOMC meeting decision will be today. 3.5% to 3.75. That's our Fed funds range. What's more important, of course, is the SOFR. That's the secured overnight financing rate. And it is currently hovering around that Fed funds rate. So our hope, our goal, our expectation is that the SOFR will be properly managed. The Treasury Department is doing everything they can to provide support. In addition, the Fed, by cutting its interest rate, hopefully markets calm down a little bit. They're not going to cut. That's the problem. And we can look out to CME Group. CME Group has its Fed Watch, and you can see the odds of a rate cut today are basically none. Expectations for a rate cut don't come until September. But the market is aggressively pricing in rate cuts in 2027. They've been doing this over and over and over again for about a year. The expectations that they're going to cut. The Fed has not shown any real passion about reducing interest rates. Trump has called for that. Kevin Warsh is going to take over at the Fed. Maybe we get those cuts, but at the end of the day, that's not what matters. What matters is if they are too far behind the curve. The dot plot, that is how we will assess the current situation. We're going to have every member of the FOMC come out and say, where do they think interest rates are going to be? What is the median number? Well, currently it's at 2 for expectations for rate cuts. That could go to 1, that could go to 0. And it can happen very quickly. And once again, you want to be prepared for what happens at 2:30 today. Multiple Chinese companies have received approval to purchase NVIDIA H200 AI chips via Reuters. Weird. We abandon our principles very fast, don't we? It's almost like there's money in it. That's how it works, everybody. We're letting Russia sell oil. We're letting China buy chips. That's how it works. And you can either be upset about it or you can play the game. And we choose to play the game. It's the only way to keep our head above water. China chip access is the new story. If the door opens wider, NVIDIA has another demand leg. Be paying attention to NVIDIA stock. Look at the chart. It's got upside. It's got 200 upside. But all you have to do is focus on that 8-day, 20-day moving average. Look for that 8-day to cross above that 20. That's when it will be time to make that trade, or volume weighted average price. And this is what you should be doing. If you are a trader, you should be compacting your time. NVIDIA is selling off a little bit this morning. Let's get down into that third standard deviation, fourth standard deviation. And then let's look for a check mark, a squeeze. There's opportunity here. CEO will talk again today. I didn't even know he was sick. It's a joke. Minus 26 on the S&P 500 reading. What is that telling us? It's telling us we were at minus 49 just 2 days ago. It's telling us that the selling pressure is breaking down. That's important. This does not mean that people are buying stocks. What it means is we have a situation where the number of stocks down on the week kind of evening out. Remember, we're looking at the number of stocks that are down on the week, down on the month. Down on the week is the issue, right? So if like 50 stocks fall 5% in a week, but then they trade sideways, the number of stocks that are down on the week, that number contracts, right? Because these stocks are flat. We're looking at stocks that are down 5% on the week, down on the month. Well, you don't have that many numbers that are down 5% on the week. Everybody's calming down a little bit. They're waiting for the Fed meeting today. This can resume, but it's just a reminder that today is a day to be focusing on volume weighted average price. Okay. So you see a little bit of a sell-off. You watch these names. This is the VWAP, that blue line. That is the first standard deviation of price, second standard deviation of price at the second line, and third standard deviation. What you want to be looking for today when we get to that 2:30 time, you hope that the market overreacts to whatever decision is made at 2:00. Now, obviously, they're not going to cut rates, but the market can and will sell because, again, the purpose of the market is to sell. And if you get down here into that third deviation band, you need to be prepared because it's going to be a buy. And what do you do and how do you trade it? If we find ourselves in this situation, if you find yourself in a situation where the S&P 500 is now down in its second, third, fourth standard deviation, you buy the at the money call and you look for and you hope for a reversion back to volume weighted average price. And that could be a $2, $3, $4 move on the underlying. Is that guaranteed to happen? No. But what I'm walking you through right now is you need to be prepared for that scenario if it does, because that trade for the last couple of years has been fantastic. Maybe you get it today, maybe you don't. But if you get it, you're prepared. You know exactly what you need to buy. You need to buy whatever is at the money in that third standard deviation line. You don't speculate up here, here, or here. If we were down here, you would buy the 668 or the 667, higher delta, and you stay in the money. Don't be greedy, and then look to sell at every deviation line. Hey, we did it. Cool. Me and the Money Printer is free every day. Oh, man, how fantastic is that? We talk about liquidity. We talk about the Fed. We talk about what really drives markets. Big focus on insider buying. Postcards from the Edge of the World is available every weekend. We talk about a little bit about geopolitics, a little political science, macro trends, the stories that are shaping the global economy. Big focus there is on choke points investing. If you're looking for something that has a portfolio, that is the letter for you. And once again, we are currently up 9% on the year while the S&P 500 is lagging. And we focus on choke points. We focus on the things that matter. We look for a total return. Our goal, my goal, is a total return this year of around 15 to 20%. Am I going to get there? Well, that's part of the fun. InsiderStockBuys.com is our site that we just created for people who want to follow what CEOs and CFOs are doing. We also have the Insider Buying Report at Substack. That is available as well. All right. I hope everybody has a great trading day. Hey, this was a great show. This was the greatest show. I hope everybody has a wonderful day. If you're not a member of Moneypreneur Pro, what are you doing? And then secondly, keep in mind, I'm going to release the other video in about 25 minutes, talk about some trade ideas and how you can prepare yourself for the Fed meeting. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope you have a great day. We'll catch up soon.